Hello, everybody. So I don't really do the vlog thing a lot, but I thought this would be a good time to do it because I actually kind of missed the date. I was thinking this was going to be sometime next month, but as of last Monday, I have been quote out to myself for about 1 year now, and that's a pretty big thing for me. So I thought I would kind of commemorate that by just sort of talking about the story of how I got to this point, basically, because that's not something I don't think I've discussed in detail with many people. Starting um, with kind of the beginning, like born 1993, Springfield, Missouri, St. John's Hospital, I believe. uh, like my earliest, as they pertain to gender identity, my earliest memories aren't terribly distinct. I think some of it was a little more latent for me than it is for some trans people. I remember I always had kind of a like in movies and things, I would always kind of empathize with the female characters a little more than the males, especially like as I kind of grew up and like felt sort of took on the role of a male person. Like I started empathizing with the male characters more, but like I remember certainly in very young memories, I would, and it wasn't always like an immediate identification, but just kind of a more like as far as reasoning and personality, I always like felt a little more aligned with certain characters. I think, uh, and kind of going off that, I remember I always, from a kind of younger age, I always cared more about being accepted in female circles than male ones. Like wanting to be one of the girls. But yeah, like I said, that didn't really set in. I think the earliest big thing was when I was 7 or 8. My parents have always kind of had me read a lot, and around that age, I started reading through the Wizard of Oz series. Like a lot of people don't know that after the Wizard of Oz, there's like this whole series that's actually really neat. It kind of like expands the world and everything. But the second sort of book story in that series was called The Marvelous Land of Oz, and it featured a story. There was like a lost princess and this boy who was captured or raised by a witch and had to get away from her. And near the end of the book, you found out that the boy who you'd kind of been following, the the witch that had raised him was the same witch that had captured this princess they were looking for so long ago, and she turned the princess into a boy to keep her hidden, and that boy was the character you'd been following. So they turned this boy back into the princess that they, I guess she at that point was supposed to be. And I remember that kind of, it was just a weird moment to read about at the time. Like I said, I was 7 or 8. And there was like a passage, like as they woke up, I think they kind of glossed over. There was like a magic potiony type thing, but as the Princess Ozma was the princess name. It was Tip when the story started. But anyway, as Ozma woke up, there was like a line like, "Wow, I feel really different" or something. And I remember that like I for some reason just became really fascinated with that idea. I was like, "Well, yeah, would it feel different? What would it be like? Like, would you think differently? Would you process things differently? What would it be like wearing those different clothes?" And I just remember like fixating on it like a lot. And I guess that was probably one of the early signs of where I would end up heading. And I remember from that point, like any that kind of concept of gender heckery or whatever, like it would just always like it, I knew I was fascinated by it, and I knew that was weird, so I tried to kind of like restrain it, and that just like made it more interesting because now it was like a taboo thing. But like like those sci-fi shows or cartoons, there's always like the gender swap episode, like Fairly Odd Parents. I remember that episode a lot, and like I would always be really interested and not quite sure why. And I didn't learn about like, I'm not sure when I learned that that was like a thing people did in real life. Like I was fairly young because I don't actually remember learning about it. I always remember like having that idea. Um, I remember there was an episode of CSI, and I like kind of had an idea at that point. It was kind of one of your typical cringy depictions of trans people. Like they all had like that really weird post plastic surgery face that trans people do in like movies. But I don't know. Like I remember that was it wasn't the point at which I learned about it, but that was kind of an early memory of, I guess, kind of realizing that this was like a thing people did in the real world and not just through magic potions or whatever. And again, I was always interested in it, but never really. Things kind of came to a bigger point, I guess, around puberty, or I hit puberty like really young, like as far as physical stuff. Like I was shaving at age 11, but I think like around 13 was when kind of the um, hormonal stuff started happening, and I think that made me. I think that shook things up a lot because it made me aware, I guess, of the difference between boys and girls a lot more. So I was, I guess I just kind of noticed the things I didn't like about being a guy a lot more, and the things that like were really interesting to me about like girls and stuff girls did. And I think from somewhere at that point, like I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I like knew that if somebody like from that point there was pretty much a 100% certainty for the rest of my life that like if somebody were to hand me like a button and said if you push this button you'll be a girl, I'd be like pretty much unquestioningly. Um, but just because of like you know because of like religious stuff and just moral stuff, I was like that's not possible. I can't do that because it would be morally wrong. I have this duty to be a guy and all that. And like I still like again I kind of knew like even from that point like when I would see in the news like the just anything about like trans people, I would always like feel kind of or even like knowing that trans people were part of the kind of LGBT umbrella, there would be kind of this subconscious feeling of like, hey, I'm kind of like those people, aren't I? Even if I can't like, or even if I would never admit that, like I kind of had that in my head even from about age 13ish onward. And I internalize this because I internalize everything. You know, that's that's what I do. Um, and I reached the conclusion that this was just the fact that I couldn't interact with. I was homeschooled, so I didn't get a chance at this point, and so I wouldn't get a chance to kind of interact with people for a couple more years until when I went into high school, and so I persuaded myself that basically this whole desire to be a girl was just the result of like the fact that I didn't know any girls in real life, and I determined that I was just compensating for that by like trying to fill that role myself. And so I kind of like I had that sort of mentality in my head, and so that was sort of I did a fairly good job, if you can call it that, of kind of boxing things up for a good long while after that. Um, I remember in high school, like it didn't come up a lot. Every once in a while, I remember they had a school spirit dress up week, and one of the days was Gender Bender Day, and it was a Lutheran school, so you can believe that was controversial for at least a few of the like teachers didn't really like that it was happening, even though like and my parents certainly were one of the ones who kind of objected. I thought I was clever because I just wore a Justin Bieber mask, and I was like, but I do remember like that day, I was like really sort of jealous of the guys that were able to like put on girls' clothes and stuff, like just because I was fairly honest with myself at this point. Like there was a bit of denial, but I kind of knew, but so yeah, I do remember in high school there was kind of a mounting frustration that I had, and I wasn't quite sure why at the time. Like I knew that there was a person I should be, and that I wasn't being that person, and like it's not even wasn't even necessarily entirely uh, gender things. Um, like I do commend, like, my parents raised me. They didn't like tell me that you have to be behave X way to be a man, or that women behave X, Y way. Like I never felt like my personality or my actions made me more or less one gender, and uh, I do appreciate that aspect of my upbringing, because it I would be probably a lot more mentally messed up had I not been raised that way. But I don't know. There was just this. I just didn't feel like I was being the person that I could be, um, and that's it's a little hard. And it kind of like it manifested as a sort of like self hatred at the worst point. Like it wasn't to the point where I would willingly harm myself, because that's just that was never really my personality. But like at the worst point, I was very good at resisting pain, because I kind of like didn't care if I got hurt, because I felt like I was like not worthy of not receiving pain. Like it was a weird point in my life. But yeah, so I kind of like dealt with that, got through high school, and in college I met the my first uh, girlfriend, my first kind of dating relationship in my life, and that was pretty cool. Like we still like we're not dating anymore, but we're still good friends and such. And like this is going on Facebook, so you all know who I'm talking about. But like I'm trying to be general in case anybody sees this. But yeah, we started dating, and I think after after a certain point, I kind of realized like being around her sort of kind of made me remember. Again, it brought up the differences between male and female to me, and it made me remember how much I didn't like filling the role of a guy in a in that context, and again, like how I was kind of jealous of her, of some of the things, like the ways I would be able to treat her as the girl in the relationship, and I'd be like, I wish that could be me, but it can't, because you know. But and I kind of worked through that. Again, I kept a lid on it for several years, just because at that point I felt like being like I am still a strongly Christian person, I was at that time, and I just felt like, this is not a thing I can ever do, because it's against the rules, um, as it were, or not a thing I can ever explore, I guess. So I yeah, spent a few more years in college in Iowa, where I was going to school, and I hit this kind of weird point for a lot of reasons. I think it would be really oversimplifying things if I blamed that all on like gender dysphoria. Uh, like there were a lot of factors that kind of contributed to this period of like sort of depression and aimlessness. Uh, and around that point was when I decided to transfer schools and switch majors and everything, kind of putting me where I am now. And I remember a lot during that point in time. I would just kind of sit. Whenever I was sitting on my own, I would sit and think and just be like, I really don't know who I am. Like looking at myself, and again, like to say that this was all gender related would be simplifying it way too much. But I think it was definitely a factor. But I was really not sure who I was or where I wanted to go in life, and it was a weird point. But I think finding a major I liked. Like I got into film where I am now, and I that was something that definitely helped sort of stabilize my mood at the time. It gave me a purpose that I didn't really have in any of my other academic areas. Excuse me. But so one of the first classes I took was an online course, and it was a West course, Women's and Ethnic Studies, and I tried to avoid those courses for reasons that would take up an entirely another video. But anyway, there was one paper, and it was kind of about like gender roles and I can't remember exactly what the paper was, but it was something along those lines. And I was like, well, hey, I have this experience, and those crazy left wing college people probably won't question me if I play the trans card, which is like an awful way of thinking about it, but it worked. So, but I kind of basically used that as a chance to just kind of like write about sort of a condensed version of what I've been talking about for the last several minutes. And again, I was like, I'm just going to use this entirely for points, because that's what these women's studies people like to hear about. But like after I wrote that paper, it did kind of just reflecting on that kind of side of my mentality that I'd kept in a box for a really long time. It just sort of like kind of brought things back to the forefront, I guess. And it caused me to start thinking about it a lot more. And again, like I was just like, as much as I want this, this cannot happen. It would be against the rules. And so I would, I prayed about it, because that's still, prayer is God. Prayer, that's kind of the nexus around which everything I'm doing revolves. So like, that was where I turned, and I prayed really, really passionately. I remember like several altar calls in a row. I would kind of, one night I would kind of like look up stuff, like information on like what is it, just to pique my own, or to satisfy my own curiosity, like what is it trans people go through, how does that surgery work exactly, just like because it was interesting to me. And I would look at that and think about how much I wanted that, and then altar call would come, and I would like go up and I would pray, and I'd be like, God, I don't want to, like, if this is something that's going to screw up my relationship with you, then I don't want to, help me out here. And after doing that a few times, I kind of realized that like every time I would sort of offer that up, give that up to God, and it felt like he was kind of giving it back. And eventually not just giving it back, but also like there was a weird kind of I don't know how to describe it exactly, other than vindication, kind of like I've been a church person for a while, and I've done things before knowing full well like nothing terrible, like for your imagination gets it, but like I've done stuff like taken cookies from the cookie jar when I wasn't supposed to or whatever. But like when you do things and that you're not supposed to be doing them, that God doesn't want you to do them, there's a feeling you get, like and the weird thing was I did not feel that as far as like this desire to transition to be a openly trans person. Like it just really, like, the sort of this is wrong alarm that had always worked fairly flawlessly before was kind of not registering. And 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 so I just, like, I felt like there was something I felt like there was something more that I needed to look into. And I was like I kind of felt like this was like that part of me that wanted to transition was kind of the part of me that God was sort of guiding me towards, in a way. And so I just like that kind of confused me for a little while. I was like, that doesn't make sense, because like, I've been taught all these things, and like this is how certain things work. And so I just kind of started looking around um, for reputable Christian sources, because I mean, like, there are a lot of different ideas on God out there, a lot of different ideas on everything, and I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't just listening to the sources that justified what I wanted, because again, I've done that before, and it never ends well. Especially as a Holy Ghost filled person, as a person who kind of follows the spiritual uh, guidance, I guess. Uh, like it not following that and trying to justify it, it never ends well. So I wanted to really make sure I wasn't doing that. Um, and so, like, I did eventually find some sources that honestly, I think going through like the entire logical process would probably be like its own video. But basically, like, kind of uh, the um, I guess the main thing I'd always heard was, like, this, like, this is how you're born, and that's who you're meant to be. And like the big thing you always hear is, like, chromosomes. Like, guys have XY, girls have XX, and I can some of the stuff I looked at, like, there was sort of trying to say that, like, again, I'm not uh, certainly not qualified to go over this as an authority in this video, like, but basically that there are conditions, people who have one set or the other, like people who biologically have all their girl parts internally and externally, but have a Y chromosome, or conversely, whatever. And basically, the idea was that it's not that like, it can be simplified, I guess. Um, and so, I mean, that was all well and good, but whatever. And but I basically started, the more I looked at stuff, I kind of got the feeling that, like, the Bible itself doesn't talk a lot about transgender people. Like, there's some stuff that can be applied to gay relationships, and there's like a whole other bit of debate in talking about that. But like um, like, I definitely believe that God, like, intends for, like, created men and women, and like the thing you always hear kind of young coming out trans people kind of get a lot is, like, God doesn't make mistakes, and I believe that for sure. But like, I just started thinking, like, well, what if he didn't make a mistake? What if the wiring in my noodle here is female? Like, it never said, it said he created the male and female. It never said what that uh, there wasn't a qualifier put on that. And I don't want to sound like one of those, like, hippy dippy kind of, like, no, you are whatever you want to be people, because that's like, I mean, I definitely believe that there is a biological basis, and I think that's something that, honestly, I'd like to see researched a little more in depth, because there are sources for it. But I'm kind of getting off. This is supposed to be a little more personal again. Like, I am not research wise, mentally wise. That makes me sound insane, but I'm. This is not the video to get into all of that. But basically, I'd seen enough that I was convinced that this could work. That that maybe a trans person is who God wanted me to be, and so I needed to see where this rabbit hole went, proverbially. So I remember I had been staying. I was staying at my parents' house. Started going to school here at UCCS. And one night I was sleeping on the couch because at the time we weren't living in a house that had an extra bedroom. But I was kind of sitting on the couch, and I just felt like, yeah, I really feel like I need to do this. Come up with uh, I can't come up with any more reasons to persuade myself to not do this. And so I hit that point that I think a lot of us hit. I had to say the words out loud. Uh, I can't remember exactly which. If I said I am a girl or I am a woman, but I had said those words out loud, and like all of a sudden, like I just felt like my almost my entire like soul kind of like clicked into position, like and it's something that's still like a little hard to explain. Uh, like it just like again like I talked about, I felt like I didn't know who I was, and all of a sudden like just I was me for the first time in since I don't know, long before like high school at least. I felt like I was actually connected to myself, and it was weird. And like from that point it's kind of like if you've ever been like really sleep deprived, and like you're in that position and you're deprived of sleep for so long that you're persuaded that you're not, like you're like, yeah, I'm good, I'm functioning, this is I'm at max capacity right now. And then you like take a nap or something and you are like, holy crap, I did not realize it was possible to feel this good because I'd felt terrible for so long. And that was on a kind of mental level, that was kind of what happened. Like I did not realize you could be this happy with your self image, like and again like I hadn't even like started transition or anything yet. This was just realizing that this was possible, that I could try and be this person I wanted to be. And so I was like, well, crap. Once that kind of abated, I was like, well, crap, what do I do now? And so that same night I was like, well, isn't there that like office on campus for the homosexual people? I guess I'm one of them now. um, that was, you know, but so I shot an email to the LGBT, and it's actually not the office itself. It's like LGBT and cultures, but I shot an email to them, uh, and I got a response from one of the people there, Jesse. He's a really nice guy, but I just kind of I was able to kind of come in and just talk, like just be like, hey, yeah, I been thinking about stuff and I'm not sure where to go. And I was invited to come to the some of the club meetings of the LGBT club on campus, and I started doing that and just kind of like I felt like this was what I needed to do. So I kind of started just it was nice hanging out with people that kind of were on that similar wavelength of figuring stuff out. And from there I kind of just started slowly exploring things. Still praying about it because I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't just going along with something because it felt good. I really did not want to do that. And like again, like I said, I kept giving it to God, and He kept giving giving it back. And so yeah, I kind of continued to explore stuff. A couple times I snuck out and used some of the money I had to buy some clothes, buy some makeup. I remember I went to Walgreens and bought a bunch of really cheap makeup because I was like, well, if I'm gonna screw up and figure this stuff out, I should use something that I don't feel like I'm wasting. And I then a little while later I went to Goodwill and I bought this this skirt, and there's a shirt somewhere, and there's a bra, and I'm not going to show you that because I'm wearing it, but yeah, just kind of started sort of slowly, clandestinely, just trying stuff, and that was, again, that was kind of one of those huge moments where, like, you know, looked I looked worse then than I do now, and but like still there was like that kind of like underlying like shadow of the person I could be, and that was like so cool, like, and exciting and amazing to see, to like actually see somebody in the mirror that, like, despite there still being stuff that needed to be worked on, that like there was possibility there that I was not able to see before, and that was like really really cool. Um, so I kind of didn't really know how to proceed from there. I had decided I wanted to move onto campus just to be closer to my classes and everything, because like going back home, it kind of or like just being around classes, it helps kind of keep you in a certain mindset, I think, and it gives me more opportunities to be kind of involved with stuff. Uh, so I wanted to make sure that my parents knew about this before I left, because I didn't want to. It felt I would feel kind of guilty and shifty if I like waited until I left to tell them, and so I mean, I came out via a Facebook message, because I did not want to have that conversation face to face at the time, and like, you know, there was kind of the awkwardness, and like we kind of like we had a little talk about it, but like you know, it was a weird topic for everyone involved, so we didn't really discuss it a lot, and like that was kind of the only real thing that came out of or related to transition that I did for a few months. And then just kind of out of the blue one day, I'd been still every once in a while after everyone had gone to sleep, I would practice makeup in the bathroom mirror, throw on a shirt or whatever, and just kind of like work on stuff. And one day I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I just thought, you know, this is actually pretty decent. I should go out like this. And I was like, what? Why would I do that? Um, and then in response to myself, I was like, so I ended up going out like this. I went to the LGBT club I mentioned. I went to a meeting there, and everybody was cool, because I figured, like, if anywhere would be a safe place to kind of try that out for the first time, that would be the place. So I did that, and it felt really good. And I just remember deciding, you know, I like being this person. I'm not gonna put her back in the box again. So I just kind of continued from there. From that day forth, I've been presenting basically like I am now. A few days later, I went to the Goodwill and bought a few more clothes, because I realized I was going to need more than one outfit if I wanted to do this in the long term. But since that point, I've just been kind of slowly figuring things out, and you know, again, it's been rough. Like, my family, for perfectly, I understand why they can't be behind me in this one all the way, but I'm glad we're still, you know, we're still talking, we're still family. I still, you know, come over to the house every once in a while, and that's great. But you know, like, I've been trying to figure out like money and how the heck I'm gonna proceed forward, and it hasn't always been easy. And like, there are still things I need to work on. Like, the video, I ran out of space on my phone earlier. I'm gonna have to edit this, and even looking at that footage, I was judging my voice in this thing. So like, you know, I've still got a long ways to go, but I am so much happier just knowing that I can, like, this is a person that I like. I like being this person, even if she's not perfect, and that like I would have never believed that I could even be at this point, you know, and like now I'm finally I have a job where I can be me at that job. Just got hired at the library not long ago. Um, I might be getting hormones soon. Still figuring some stuff out about that. Uh, most people I know call me Evelyn. At this point, a name I picked out totally randomly. By the way, there's not really a story behind that. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to share this story because it's again, like I said, it's been a year in. A lot of things have changed, and I guess that's. I just wanted people to kind of, if anyone can kind of through watching this, sort of understand where I'm coming from, or if somebody's in a similar place to at some point I was in the past year, then or year or 17. Uh, like maybe they'll get something from this because I mean I guess that's the thing um, like pretty much every major change like happens like you know in a moment like even if you're not sure where you're headed or what you're gonna become like everything can change like just in a second in one day one week you know like everything can suddenly turn around like and that's pretty cool so that's I guess that's all I got right now. Thanks for listening to me prattle on for about 30 minutes. See ya.